Hello, welcome to another great episode of Royal Black and Elite. I'm your lecturer and historian, Lady Trinette Wilson. And before we get started, for our second episode of the Women Millionaires, we covered the males in our video part 1. I wanted to thank everyone. I am so excited to see the number of subs that are going up, the number of views, likes, and shares. Y'all, thank you so much for caring about the other side of Black history, the royal side. So today we're going to talk about the women millionaires. Since our last video, we covered the men, and today I'm so excited to introduce and invite the ladies to the party. Most people have heard of the brilliant Madam C.J. Walker, Sarah Breedlove, who made her money in the hair industry. But most have not heard of other women who were Black and who were also millionairesses. And so this is part 2 of the Millionaire series, and we are looking at 5 little-known millionairesses at the turn of the century. And we're going to start with Sarah Rector. She became a millionaire by the time she was only 18 years old, and her story was amazing. Born in Oklahoma in the Indian Territory of the Muscogee Creek Nation, after the Civil War, the government gifted the enslaved grandchildren who were enslaved in the Indian Territory, and Sarah happened to be one of those grandchildren. She and her siblings, she went on to have 6 siblings, but at that time, it was 3 of them. So she and her other 2 siblings received land. Now, the land they gave Sarah was in a swamp. It was basically unfarmable. It had no water. It was terrible. And her father really struggled to pay the $30 annual fee for taxes each year. In fact, he tried to sell the land because he couldn't afford it. Well, he made a decision that changed the fortune of Sarah and the rest of their entire family. Because what he did is he rented Sarah's property to the Standard Oil Company. Now, Standard Oil at the time was the largest oil company in the country. And in 1911, she started getting her first check because B.B. Jones, an oil speculator, hit a gusher. She began to receive $300 a day. Now, mind you, I just said her father couldn't even pay $30 a year. So, with one gusher, it went to $300 a day. And records indicate by 1913, she had received an $11,000 check. By 18, she was a multi-millionaire. But pick up my book, Royal Black and Elite, and find out how they tried to take Sarah's money. Bottom line, by the time she passed away in 1965 at 65 years old, she had lived a lavish life. She owned a bakery, a boarding house, stocks and bonds, a restaurant, and 2,000 acres of land. She married twice, and her first husband was actually the second Black man to have a car dealership in the whole United States. So I thought you would find Miss Sarah Rector very interesting. If you've ever heard of the show The Beverly Hillbillies about the family hitting the oil gusher and moving to Beverly Hills, I think it was closely based on the life of Sarah Rector. So now we move to our second millionaires. The mystery around her enslavement status, when she was born, where she was born, and who her parents were, pale in comparison to her rise and fall. Mary Ellen Pleasant, also known as the Harriet Tubman of California, was born between 1814 and 1817. Though her beginnings are unclear, we do know at the age of 13 in 1827, she became a bondservant to the Hussey family, and that family actually stayed in her life, the daughter, especially the rest of her life. They taught her how to be a woman, they educated her, and they also taught her all about abolition. After marrying James Smith, a former slaveholder who was a mixed-race man, they moved to San Francisco in 1852, where she opened a small restaurant and she catered to businessmen. She entered into a business partnership with one of those men that she met as a result of running this business named Thomas Bell. And together they purchased all kinds of properties. She ran all kinds of businesses and dry cleaners. But in that day, as a black woman, she couldn't sign her own paperwork. So all of the financial paperwork went in his name. Now, she bought a house, and a beautiful house. In fact, it was really where a lot of the abolitionists, they came to meet, and it was called Black City Hall. She moved Thomas and his wife into the home with her because, again, she couldn't do business without him. It was called the Bell Mansion, even though she owned it. Her fortunes changed, however, when Bell passed away in 1892. He mysteriously fell down the stairs. She was accused of harming him by his wife, and his wife thought they were having an affair. She also was angry because each time she needed money, she had to go to Pleasant in order to get it. Because she did not have the appropriate paperwork to show that she was indeed the owner and owner alone, she was evicted out of her home. For the next several years, she fought his wife in court to get her home back, but the matter still hadn't been settled by the time of her death. She lost much of her wealth as a result of the fight, but Pleasant remained active in the abolitionist movement. In fact, it's rumored she gave $30,000 for John Brown's raid, and it was rumored that they were dating, but Pleasant was instrumental also in integrating San Francisco's public transportation. The newspapers of the day mocked her by calling her Mammy Pleasant because of the work that she was doing in the abolitionist movement. Though she was stripped of her $30 million fortune and her home unjustly taken from her, her legacy still remains the same. She is the Harriet Tubman of California. The beautiful part about this story is where her home used to be. It was demolished, but they built the Mary Ellen Pleasant Memorial Park. If you're ever in San Francisco, stop by and see history in real life. Our next millionaire makes me want to say step over Gucci because Madam Elizabeth Keekly has stepped into the building. She was a fashion designer to the wives of presidents, congressmen, and the elite of Washington, D.C. Born into slavery on February 24, 1818, Madam Keekly's father was a plantation owner. Her mother was a seamstress, and that's where she learned her sewing skills. The newspapers called her a socialite and called her dresses expensive. And at the height of her fashion empire, she employed 12 seamstresses. She enjoyed an illustrious career as a fashion designer. Her most notable client was Mary Todd Lincoln, the wife of President Abraham Lincoln. Some of her most noted looks were created by Madam Keekly. And in fact, her looks are on display at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. After the great work of Abraham Lincoln, Mary Todd Lincoln was left as a widow. But the hardest thing was she was left with some financial struggles. As a result, they had to sell a lot of things in their house. And Madam Elizabeth Keekly was right there by her side, going through the process with her. After it was all said and done, Madam Keekly wrote a tell-all book. The book included personal things about the Lincolns and what they had gone through. That unfortunately ruined Madam Keekly's career, her reputation, and she was never really able to recover from it. Madam Keekly, the designers to the elite, passed away from a stroke. She suffered earlier in May 1907. Madam Keekly's style endures the test of time. If you're ever in the Washington, D.C. area, make sure to stop by and see one of her many memorials. Before I move on to the next Millionaires, I want to thank you for tuning in for Royal Black and Elite. I want to thank you also for liking, subscribing, and sharing. I am so glad to see the response of the people receiving the information and enjoying. Now we're going to jump into our final two Millionaires, and I like to bring at least one controversial person to our list. I wanted to share this story because I found it profoundly interesting. So definitely click on part 2 of Women Millionaires.